My life is, I couldn't seem to just get ahead of anything. It was always chaotic. Overthinking like consumed me, suffering with anxiety, depression, in waves. So there was days when I'd be okay, but in most cases it was just like going through the motions. Stumbled upon your page again on Instagram and I reached out to you, and when we, had our conversation and I decided that this something, it can't get no worse than what I was already dealing with, then maybe 2 days, I felt a complete 180 shift, just even in my nervous system. So although I knew your challenge was to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, my goal personally was that regulation.
Well,
It is the best decision single-handedly that I have ever made for myself.
well, Lou,
Hey, how are you?
I am doing well. Yeah.
I'm okay.
Brief intro. So, who are we here with? Who are you? Let's just pick it up from there.
Okay, hey. I'm Monique and I'm 53, mom of one. I live in New York City, so I work for the Department of Education. And in general, my life is, when I say organized, just from the standpoint of, pretty routine, but I just found that I couldn't seem to just get ahead of anything. It was always chaotic. Overthinking like consumed me. I was suffering with anxiety, depression in waves. So there was days when I'd be okay, but in most cases it was just like going through the motions. Always tired, no matter how much rest I got. Always thought that I ate relatively healthy, somewhat active in the sense of exercise, but not consistent, social. But a lot of times I just wanted to be home because it was a chore because my mind was constantly racing. Oh, like I said, the overthinking, just always worried about something, just never, always giving from an empty cup. So I was just depleted. I live with PCOS, and that's also another issue that kind of causes the weight. And so it was always presented as a challenge for me to try to get a handle on the weight and ahead of it. But I think more than the weight for me was just the emotional state that I was in, my mental health, and it was starting to take a toll on me. So I knew I had to do something.
Yeah. So talk about that because that's very important that you mentioned because those are usually the barriers that stop people, right?
Mhm.
PCOS, mental, emotional things, busyness. So, with all of that on your plate, what made you even still say yes to pouring into yourself before we kind of talk about what happened after that decision?
Well, at that point, by the time I contacted you, I literally didn't have anything else to lose. I was that close to like the edge. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown, in all honesty, and it was scaring me. I didn't know. I thought that I knew enough of the self help stuff that could manage it on my own, but it just got to a point where the chaos was so loud, literally, like in my head, that I couldn't, simple tasks were, I couldn't complete. I couldn't stay focused. I just couldn't get through something without it feeling like I was completely depleted of all my energy. And I couldn't quiet the noise in my head. So I knew something had to be done because I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. Well, what do you say about that decision you made, those months ago? Let's kind
Zero.
of get it. I know we what
It is the best decision single-handedly that I have ever made for myself because I wasn't making decisions for myself first. I was always last man on the totem pole because I'm
Mhm.
constantly giving from that cup that was it was empty. And I had a friend that passed away. She ended up taking her own life, and her daughter literally made mention how her mom gave to everybody, was strong for everyone. But when she needed her strength the most, she didn't have it to give. And that for me was the game changer that I refused to let that be my story, but I also didn't know how much energy I had left to keep it from being my story. So the timing, as you said, is alignment. I thought it was ironic, but I've learned that it is absolute alignment. And like I said, I had nothing else to lose at that point. So I've tried everything else. I've done cleanses, I've done diets, I faithfully went to the gym, changed how I ate, but nothing addressed the issues. So it was always a temporary fix, and it just
Mhm.
wasn't that wasn't going to get it. So I knew I had to do something drastic, but um, it was necessary.
Yeah, from our very first conversation now, I see the night and day difference in how you
Hmm.
are. Obviously, they don't see the how you were before. But
Hmm.
let's talk about that because obviously it's a different shift. But let's talk about since we did it in phases, right? So
Hmm.
the first 4 weeks, then the next 4 to 8 weeks. So kind of talk about what you experienced, like within our experience or results, even within like the first 4 weeks, and we can kind of go from there.
Within the first 4 weeks, I had made the decision to not just work on the outside, but also the inside. So I enlisted, found a therapist, and then about 2 weeks later, stumbled upon your page again on Instagram, and I reached out to you. And when we, had our conversation, and I decided that this something, it can't get no worse than what I was already dealing with. Within maybe 2 days, I felt a complete 180 shift, just even in my nervous system. So, although I knew your challenge was to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, my goal personally was that regulation, because it was like, I don't want to say a drug because I've never been on drugs, but it was it just kept pulling me. I couldn't, like, no, I can't try it, walk away. It just was, I was like, this is it. This is it. So that 4 week time period was where you gave me the amount of proteins, carbs, and fats that I should be eating, the amount of calories I should intake, vitamins. You got all of that background from me. And you really focused on regulating my system through my nutrition. And it absolutely unequivocally worked. Like there's nothing else because I didn't do anything else. 6 days in, I injured my knee. So I wasn't able to work out. I couldn't even walk. But I
Mhm.
made sure that I ate my meals, and we tweaked and adjusted where, time periods where I was struggling with consuming my water. You gave me little suggestions. I implemented them the next day, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. That's beautiful. So that's a huge part. The nervous system regulation is
Yeah,
obviously really
it was the
calm,
game changer.
peaceful. Yeah,
Yeah.
nutrition, the supplements, and then also
Mhm.
let's talk about that the injury you mentioned, right?
Mhm.
So that's usually something most people talk about, like, oh, I'm injured or I have a health condition, or I mean, we have multiple things going on here that most people use as a reason not to
Mhm.
take action. But let's talk about like the end, right? So obviously we're still going on, but
Mhm.
let's talk about like where you are now even after the injury that usually takes people out of the game,
This is what, 3 months,
kind of results you experiencing.
25 pounds down. Not even consistently going to the gym, but definitely consistent with everything else. So the patterns that I've developed, it's now like automatic for me. I feel different when I don't get up early and have my breakfast, start with my water, have my meals that I'm supposed to have. I prep everything for work, for lunch and breakfast. Just kept me on track with everything that I didn't have to think about it. I implemented your suggestion of putting reminders in my phone. So it took out a lot of the, memory factor for me, which also allowed my mind the rest that it needed, because I didn't realize just how much I was trying to remember. And by doing that, it just gave me downtime that I didn't even realize I was doing. So all of those things just like gave me a recharge. I had energy. Even with the injury, you had me increase my protein. And let me see, 3 days, I hobbled back to work. And then I had another 2 days down. And then I went back to work within a week. So without a cane or a crutch, because I was on crutches when I left the hospital, and I went back in a week. I was
Mm,
able to walk on my own too. So it definitely made a difference.
beautiful. That's a huge shift that most people don't even get to experience it. The regulated nervous system, but
Hmm.
also like the details, the specific details that we made so you can
Hmm.
increase your recovery and also still drop body fat without having to work out.
Yeah.
So, in terms of your experience, whether it's the mindset, the nutrition, the exercise, like what feels easier now that used to feel overwhelming, like before we worked together?
It may sound funny, literally getting up every day. Like um everything. It is a complete difference. I don't even think about anymore. Like I'm I have my water. Like it's just normal for me. I'm like, nope, I need this. I have to do that. I have to. So I prep. I have my days that I prep. Even if I switch it, it doesn't matter because I make sure that I have the things that I need, my breakfast, my lunch, my dinners. Even when I'm not counting the calories, because now I've been doing it long enough that I know what my portions are supposed to look like. I know how when it's prepared properly, that's the proper caloric intake for me, or whatever. And I physically can feel the difference. I experienced I won't call it a setback, as you call it, a blip in the radar last week. And it was very emotional for me. So I did a check in with you. I did a check in with my therapist, and my body literally was rejecting my normal way that I would handle a situation. And that switch flipped, and I'm like, do what you've been taught. So even in the moment that I felt the most overwhelmed, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, I was able to regulate myself. I went right into writing down how I felt, what I noticed about that emotion, what triggered the emotion. Sit in it, but I didn't absorb it. I had to literally release it, and I could feel it literally move in stages from my stomach, from my chest, from my shoulders to my throat, and finally off of me. It took longer than what I thought because I've never experienced it that way before, but literally day 6, I was like, okay. And I also attributed the nutrition factor into it because I was on vacation, so I wasn't getting up as early. I wasn't sticking exactly to my routine, eating the same foods, but just not the way I had been doing. And within 2 days, that set right back. So the nutrition is key. You can't get around that. I don't care how much gym you do. If that nutrition ain't right, that regulation is not coming in. And through all of that chaos, when I focused on my core, I was still completely calm and regulated. So that I have never experienced, and I'll be 54 in December. Never felt that in my life.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be able to
Yeah.
that journey, and it's good because it isn't just nutrition because we think nutrition, oh, just eat healthy, eat clean.
Mm-mm.
It's really the specifics and the right amounts, the right quantities, and the right order
Absolutely.
for eating the foods. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, I like to say aha moments, meaning what was a moment you didn't expect or an experience that like you went through that was like, oh, what the hell? I didn't expect this to happen. Is there any aha moments that you?
For me, it was the decision to choose me. I've never done that before. I I do the things that were needed, but to make a decision to choose yourself over everyone and everything. And as a mom, I thought that was selfish, but I understood how necessary it was because if I'm not at my best, I can't be my best version for anybody else, whether it's job, relationship, parenting, friendships. I can't be because I'm neglecting myself and I refuse to do it anymore. So that was my biggest aha. My coworkers and friends, for them it was noticing that I'm losing weight.
Right.
But that weight for me was metaphoric because I walked different. They noticed my posture. I walk into a room, I was up straight instead of feeling like I was literally dragging myself by my collar because I had no motivation, no desire, no energy, and all of that shifted. So when I first looked at 10,000 steps, I'm like, ain't no way. And I hit 10,000 more often than I don't, but there are times that I don't just because of the activity or being at work. But yeah, I look for it now. Like, come on, let's walk so I could get my steps. So like all of those little things now are just part of Monique 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That, yeah. I'm proud. I'm proud because
thank you.
it all started with one decision. And
Hmm.
I say it's like starts with you, and then other people notice. And has anyone ever even asked you like, hey, what are you doing, or anything
Yeah, I
like
get
that?
people that ask, but I also realize, like as with myself, you have to be ready.
Mhm.
So seeing the need and being literally ready, it is two different things.
Mhm.
And I was just ready. Even when I didn't quite realize that's what it was, Like I said, I was at my wit's end, so I thought more than that. That's what it was. But it was. I was ready. I was ready, and I'm grateful, so grateful that everything was aligned because this could not have gone any better than if I, was asked to. If you could put down the perfect results, and I won't even say that they're perfect. It's just right on time for me. So I'm good with that. Like I didn't press myself. I didn't get on a scale for 4 weeks. I found I was 11 pounds down, and then I wasn't on the scale again for almost just two weeks ago, and discovered that I had lost an additional 11 and then an additional 3, so 25. And that's not even going hard. So I'm about to ramp it up and get in the gym and really get focused because it's winter time. So, less activities going on. And I can, pour all of that into me and just, keep going. You equip me.
Yeah,
So I know I can do it.
definitely. That's what we say. Live lion-hearted. The holistic system is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about support before we kind of go here. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously you had direct support. It wasn't like here's a PDF, here's
Yeah.
a cookie cutter meal plan, here's a workout to follow. Like you had the one-to-one support. You even had like accountability checking calls. So give
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of insight on how the supports helped you, or even just helped you feel like more true in terms of certainty in creating change.
The support was crucial because like you said, it wasn't a PDF, although you did the videos in the chats, in the apps, and those things were good because we could go back to that as frequently as we needed. But to physically have meetings with you, even if it wasn't on camera, I could hear you. You left very little room for questions in the sense of not understanding. You were so clear, so you took a lot of that guesswork out for me. I didn't have to think about anything. I just wrote down or did what you told me to do, and I saw the results. So for me, it was like if he says do that, I'm gonna do it because he knows what he's talking about, and it worked. So the support just was, as I refer to you and my therapist as my bookends, because crutches you literally have to use as you're walking. But when you just have people on your side, you can do it. It's just if I need you, I can grab you. And that's what that did for me. So taking everything that you said and just going straight. I didn't contemplate, I didn't wait. I would implement whatever you told me immediately so that I'd see the shift. I first was doing affirmations literally in my head because I'm like, this is weird. I'm not talking to myself in the mirror. It's the same thing. It is not. Absolutely is not. The very first time I affirmed myself, I like got chills. It was like, okay, that was weird. Um, but yet it was like I need to do that again, and it's not out of conceit or vanity. It's necessary, um, because if you can't speak into yourself, how do you speak to someone else? So it just was a total mind shift. Changing the language, I decided to stop saying I have anxiety, and I chose to say, at times I deal with things that make me feel anxious, but now I'm equipped with how to either get ahead of it or manage it if it does create a situation where I feel like I was in crisis. And I think that post the work is where I feel the most proud of myself because that was my fear that when this is over and I'm by myself and something happens, am I going to be able to handle it? And although I did kind of go into that panic mode because it was just an unfamiliar feeling, um, my mind kicked right into what I need to do for me. And I did it. So I'm prepared, and there's nothing saying nothing else will happen again that may, trigger something. I'm in therapy, so I know I'm doing a lot of releasing of trauma. So it may be, some emotional days, but I'm prepared. I know to journal, I know what to do. So I can completely heal. It won't be a band-aid now over, my life. I'll be able to hopefully turning 55 next year, I'll be walking in healed. So that's what I look forward to the most.
Wow, that's beautiful. Listen, I'm grateful to be on this journey with you here because healing is not something that is to be taken lightly.
Mm-mm.
because it's the emotional side. Yes, we did provide the system, the structure, support. There's also you taking responsibility of what most people shy away for their entire existence,
Yeah.
right? It is uncomfortable. It is
Hmm.
scary. It can be painful. And leaning into that tension when most people wouldn't is what creates the breakthrough. Obviously, we make it more simple, removing some like decision fatigue or thought processes, but at the end of the day, that's your
Your
action.
work to do, yeah. And I
Yeah.
thought a lot of it would just be mental, remembering, certain information or whatever, but I experienced it more physically than what I expected. And I think that's where some of the panic came from. But I just reassured myself. I literally placed my hand on my chest, on my heart, on my stomach. I did the breathing and I told myself I was okay. I was safe because if I can't be a safe space for me, then nothing else will work. So I could feel literally, it just like was, when you see that meter thing and it goes down, I literally felt it. And I'm like, wow. So while I was still experiencing the stress, I could feel the calm. And I'm like, that was almost like somebody sitting there hugging me through it. So it worked, and I won't say I want something else to happen, but I know that some whatever else does come, that I'm gonna be able to handle it. So
Yeah.
I just feel, yeah, really proud of myself, which is something else I never say out loud, but I'm getting way better at it, um, because if I don't do the work, it won't happen. So there's only but so much I can be provided with. I have to do it. I have to be accountable. I have to, recognize, okay, you didn't do that. And that was one of the first things that I recognized. You've been on vacation, you haven't been eating on time the way you should, the way you started, not drinking enough water. I had a bad muscle spasm when I haven't had it. I don't know when because I didn't have enough water. So I'm like, that's it. Like once I experience something negative because of something I'm not doing, that's it for me. So I don't care where I have to. I walk around with my water. I'll do it. It's over because I'm not. I just can't go backwards. Can't. It's not.
Onward, upward. So,
Yeah.
so, so, what do you say then, Monique? Because there's going to be women who may see this who were similar to yourself, whether they're juggling, motherhood, whether family life, work life, emotional things, PCOS, any A1C, any hormonal shifts in their 50s. Like, what would you say to someone who's on the fence, who's just contemplating, like, do I take it this step? Do I pour into myself? Like that version of you, when we first met, if she was on the fence, like what would you share with her?
Well, she was absolutely on the fence. Defeated, all of that. But and I am not getting paid for this. There is nothing in this for me but my truth. And for me, any woman that's sitting here unsure, just do it because the overthinking will keep you stuck right there. Had I not done this, I probably would still be spiraling, experiencing episodes of these panic attacks that were getting more frequent and more severe. The just being stuck, no energy, still the weight I was at when I started because I probably would not have dropped 25 pounds almost effortlessly. Just to be proud of myself, to be able to pick me. Like I don't know, it sounds simple. All of these things, these journeys, all these words I always thought were just for other people. It happened to other people. These stories, I would never be on this side of the testimony, but I absolutely can say right hand to God that it can happen. It shifts, it changes, and it's nothing. I cannot go backwards. There's no going back to my old ways, my old habits, my old mindset. I can't do it. My body literally won't let me. So just do it. Because if you don't take the chance on you, nobody else will. Nothing anyone else can do for you before you can do it for yourself.
I think you need to come out here. I'm taking notes on that. That was yeah. I mean, and I mean, I always say like I can only say so much. Your lived experience is more powerful than me saying, "Hey, I
Yeah.
know I get results," but someone else sharing theirs, I feel like is way more
Mhm.
powerful.
And I won't lie. When I first, you first DM me, I was like, it's probably more to gimmick I got this and I'm the best to do that. But as soon as you started speaking to me, first of all, you spoke so fluently that it couldn't be a gimmick because gimmicks, you're reaching, you're grabbing, you're looking for a catchphrase. And I didn't feel any of that. And I felt a sense of calmness just in that conversation. So I'm like, okay, let me give him a shot because he has to know his stuff to be able to speak it so freely. And by that second meeting, I said, this is it. And I just felt it. It was not, my core told me, just do it. Just do it. So if your core is speaking to you, ladies, please listen to it, please, because we learn to ignore our intuition when things are right and when things are wrong. And I had to tap back in so that, I could make that adjustment because it was more than needed. I was in survival mode and I didn't realize it. And now I can begin to live. And there is a humongous difference in that.
Let's thrive. Let's thrive. Lionhearted lifestyle. You know,
Yeah.
you've evolved, you've elevated
Yeah.
into Monique 2.0. And I
2.0.
would say, a couple months out of the entire life experience is short,
Mm-hmm.
but changes are monumental. And the thing is
Yeah.
compound, right? Because you built a foundation, you have the
Mm-hmm.
momentum. So just imagine a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And this is stuff that'll never leave me. Like,
Mhm.
even when the program part of it is over, I know I could shoot you a DM and just ask you a question. You're gonna answer it. Like it's not about, a program at that point. It's just about, just making sure, where my mindset is, or if I just need to, a quick reset. And you did that for me, and that's nothing I can ever repay you with. But you don't know. You don't know the I don't even have a word yet. I have to find a word because that's how huge it was for me. It was that simple of a task, but it made a humongous change in my life, and I'm eternally grateful.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.